So I can't talk to you about stewardship without kind of telling you a little bit about my story and how I started to level up financially. And I won't talk about a lot about the getting out of debt part. I will talk about the mindset that it took me to begin to generate wealth. These are two different mindsets. So y'all know the story if you've listened to me tell it at any length of time, but I want to reiterate some points here. I was not born with money. I am from the inner city, which is a cute way to say I am from the hood of Chicago. Born to a single parent home. My mama was 17. I am a first generation graduate. I am the first to do a lot of things. I tell you these stats to let you know that I am not supposed to be here according to statistics. I am supposed to be a welfare queen. This is what the culture has said I was supposed to be. But I decided that I wanted to be someone else. And I decided that I wanted to give myself a chance. And I decided that though I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth, I would likely die with one of my children would have silver spoons. But I also decided that even though I was not taught about money directly as a child, that I was fully capable of learning about money. And so if you're interested in the detailed way that I started to get my money together, I want to invite you to grab my Wealth Mastery Bundle. 2 ebooks. First ebook is how I climbed out of consumer debt in 8 months and how you can too. I walk you through that entire journey. Second ebook is how I managed to save my first 20K in 1 year. It's possible. I'm telling you, it's possible. Especially in this economy right now, it is possible. My wealth building journey started with a decision. I decided that it was not okay for me to be in $10,000 worth of consumer debt. Now, I was someone who used to spend all my money. I used to go retail therapy instead of real therapy. I used to be a spender, a consumer, not a creator, not someone who generated wealth. As soon as it was hitting my pocket, your girl was spending it. Okay, it didn't stay there long. My mom used to say, when I was younger, that money burning a hole in your pocket. Ain't it? Was. It was burning a hole. I wanted to spend it, and I did. The issue was that I didn't really have the money, so I was living on credit cards. I had 3 credit cards. My credit cards had high interest rates. And if you don't pay those credit cards off by the end of the month, you're going to get hit with them interest rates. And they sky high, 25%, 27%. They high. So you're actually paying the interest, and you long ago paid off what you actually purchased. But because I didn't have the money that I was spending, guess what? I was further in the hole. So I made a decision January 2019 to say, I'm getting out of this consumer debt. Not knowing about money, not knowing what I can do, not knowing anything. My decision was, you're coming out. So I never want you to underestimate the power of a decision. You can decide to live a different life, and that is where you start on your journey when you decide. And so I said, okay, Briana, you're going to have to find out how you're going to do it, but you're going to give yourself this entire year to do it. I gave myself 12 months. Long story short, I got out of that $10,000 of consumer debt in 8 months. If you look on my Instagram story, if you follow me on Instagram, the Book of Briana, and you look at my highlights, not my story, look at my highlights and you'll see the Journey to 20K highlight, and you will see where I started to show you not only my journey to 20K, but I look backward and show you basically how I was when I was paying off these credit cards. So I'm not lying to you. I made this decision. I got out of the 10K in 8 months. It was hard. I was crying a lot. It was delayed gratification. I was denying myself. That was a hard 8 months, and I never want to experience that again. And even though I didn't have the full support of people were watching. And so I also need you to know this too. You may not have the full support of everyone you want to have, but you still can do it. You can still reach your goals whether you have verbal agreement or not. You don't need the verbal agreement. You have the agreement of heaven, and you have the agreement with yourself. You can live a better life if you decide to. After that 8 months, I really was like, okay, well, you need to go ahead and start saving. Now, in the vein of transparency, I had implemented the debt snowball method, which I got from Dave Ramsey, and that's when you pay off your credit cards from least to the greatest. But before you do the debt snowball, he does advise you you to save your first $1,000. And I did. I saved my first $1,000. I was like, girl, you balling. I never had any savings, and I had, this bright idea. Okay, you just paid off 10K. How about you save 10K? And my first 10K was the hardest to save, y'all. I literally had to not only continue to do what I was doing to get out of debt. That means living by a budget, spending less, listening to finance podcasts all day, every day, over and over again, not going out, not enjoying anything. It was a hard life, trust me. But I had to continue that. But I also had to start adapting a wealth building mindset. Those are two different things. One mindset, which is the debt-free mindset, is about depriving yourself of joy, of happiness, of things like that, right? And yes, you should have small rewards, and yes, you should have, moments when you celebrate milestones, but largely that journey is about decrease. Now that I was trying to save another $9,000 to make to my first 10,000, I had to retrain my brain to think in increase, in excess, in abundance. And, that took a little bit more time. That did take a little bit more time and a little bit more effort, but I'm here to let you know that it's possible because I did it. I saved my first $10,000 in 11 months that year. 11 months. And, this is also when we were, this is 2020 now, right? We're 2020. I saved my first 10K. We're in the pandemic. This is when I started to learn about money systems. I was trying to learn Forex, failed at Forex, but I did learn an important lesson in what I was trying to do because though I failed in Forex, I learned how to read charts. And so now I know how to enter option trades in the stock market. And so what did I do? I started to use my gifts even more. So I started a publishing company. And the reason I started a publishing company was because there was a need. People needed an editor. People wanted, someone who was able to write books and help them, publish their books. And I had already self-published a book before, so I knew the ropes. And so I said, you know what, Briana, go ahead and start your publishing company. And I was generating not a ton of revenue, but enough. I think I had maybe 3 clients that year, but that brought in over $1,000. So that was like $1,500. And of course, you got to pay your taxes out of there. But I was able to get to the money faster because I was using my gifts. This is what I talked to you about last week. Using your gifts. What are you good at? How can you monetize it? Not only that, y'all, this is when I started to write more ebooks that were digestible for the average reader. You may not need a long ebook. You may need some quick tips, some understanding, some things that you're trying to get going. And I started to write ebooks and sell them. And it does take a little bit of courage because you may think, who's going to buy this from me? Well, do you have a story? Did you overcome something? Do you know more about a specific topic than someone else? Then you are an expert. You may not be an expert in the larger thing, right? In the totality of the field, but you know how to get someone from point A to point B. You know how to help someone move forward. And so what I started to do, monetize my intellectual property. So when you go to BrianaWhiteside.com, which I encourage you to do, and you see those ebooks, majority of them was written in 2020. And they weren't selling for a whole lot, right? They were selling for, I think at the time, like $9.99. But those $9.99s add up. So I'm using my gifts and talents. I am starting to see the money stack up into my bank account. And before I knew it, that 11 months, I had managed to save that entire $10,000. And, this is the power of mindset. This is the power of imagination. When you decide to do something, heaven and earth will conspire together to help you do it. Money started coming in. Anytime people would just give me money, just, as a gift or as a birthday gift, your girl was putting it away. I was not spending it. I was not saying, I deserve this, I deserve that. No. And I know that majority of broke folks like to say, like, I deserve it. You need to go ahead and buy this luxury item. But baby, no. What I deserved was to have $10,000 in my bank account comfortably so that I would be prepared for a rainy day. Your Bible tells you that a rainy day will come. How do I know that? Because it rains on the just and the unjust. You are guaranteed to have a rainy day. And when I was listening to those podcasts and when I was listening to people, say that they had gotten out of debt and things like that, I was shook at, how they first started. And some people was even calling me and saying, I can't even afford my tires to blow out. I can't even afford, an unexpected expense to crop up. I can't even, and I was like, that's scary. If you're living so closely paycheck to paycheck, and I know how that feels, and no shade if you are, but if you're living paycheck to paycheck and you can't afford a basic expense, an unexpected expense, you're in danger. And we can't afford to continue to scroll on people's timelines and, listen to the latest gossip because they're in their bag. They're getting to the money. They're monetizing their gifts. And what are you doing? Nothing but praying that God will send you more money. And he's saying, what do you have in your hand? You won't even give yourself a chance. And I had to start to learn how to give myself a chance. A chance. It didn't matter if no one bought the books, but they did. Because my first thought was, ain't nobody gonna buy nothing from me. No one's gonna see me as an expert. But you wanna know what I did? I started to share my journey. I started to share my story. And even if you follow me on social media now, specifically on Instagram, I do this thing called No Spend Monday. No Spend Monday started when I was trying to get out of consumer debt. No Spend Monday was basically, hey, we're not going to spend for one day a week because I need to teach myself discipline. And when I switched over from trying to get out of consumer debt to build wealth, it was no spend Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Sometimes I wouldn't spend 4 days a week. It became a challenge. And then you start to see, I really don't need half the stuff that I'm spending my money on. I am just spending it because it's being marketed to me. But what if I didn't spend that money and put it over into a savings account and then started to watch it grow, right? And so the more I started to learn about money and the more I started to learn about savings, I then realized that you can't always budget your way out of a bad financial situation. Yes, your budget is important, but look, the only way you're going to build wealth or even decrease debt is to either raise your value or decrease your spending. And by raise your value, I mean doing exactly what I'm doing right now. If you follow me on YouTube, you see me podcasting, teaching Bible study, doing all of these things. I'm raising my value. Eventually, these things do pay off. You may not see it, but on the back end, they are paying off. I'm getting more exposure. More people are coming into awareness of who I am. People are buying my products. People are booking strategy sessions with me, right? And this is how I am building up my value. And I had to realize, Briana, your job is never going to get you to where you want to be financially. So you have to be willing to do uncommon things, right? And I ain't saying unlawful. I said uncommon things in order to get to where you want to be financially. Y'all, when I started unlocking my mind to figure out different ways to build wealth, there's so many opportunities that came before me. But when I was only thinking about robbing Peter to pay Paul, living paycheck to paycheck, and let me pause here and say this to you. Watch your mouth. Watch your mouth. When you say, it's going to always be like this. When you say, I can't get ahead, if you can't say if it's not one thing, it's going to be another. If you say, I got to work twice as hard to get half of what they got. If you start to say these things, you're cursing yourself. You are literally cursing yourself. Those are curses you're saying about yourself. And guess what? Your Bible says you will have what you say. You're going to have what you say. That's the power of your words. God made you so powerful that he says this person can create these things with their words. Your words have created realities. And so if you're consistently rehearsing all of this negative stuff with your mouth, you're giving it permission to operate in your life. So you can't get mad when you're not moving forward because you're always cursing yourself. You're talking bad about yourself. You got enough haters probably. Why would you be the op against you? You need to stop it. But Not only did I have to change my confession, because, when you grow up in a Black household, sometimes you hear those confessions and you just repeat them and you don't even think about it. But I had to also continue to update myself about money. And this is what I mean. After I saved that first 10K, 2021, God challenged me to save 20K. What I didn't know was going to happen was that I was going to go on furlough. Now, I ain't been out of Egypt that long. I ain't been out of bondage let alone. What you mean save 20K? You don't know what furlough means. That means that your job legally can decrease your salary legally and expect the same amount of work from you. This was an effect of the 19, the pandemic we went through, and they took a portion of my salary. So not only do I have this charge from God to save this 20K, but I don't even have my full salary to help supplement that, right? And I was like, yo, this is impossible. But then I had to remind myself, if God has given you a command, that means that you're fully capable of doing it. So what did I do? I said, okay, we're going to have to get a plan, because the only way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. So I said, okay, there are 4 quarters in a year. You need to break this up into quarters, right? So that means that you need to save $5,000 every 90 days. That meant that then I had to break it down into months. How much do you need to secure and save every month? And when I tell y'all I reached that 20K, I reached that 20K. Why? Because I started to invest. I learned about the stock market. I learned how money moved. And I had to stop being so scary. Scared money don't make money. And I didn't have a lot of money to kind of play with in the stock market. I think I first started at like $50. And when I started to see, that money grow, it gave me a different mentality, because, in the family, people of color, our families generally say, money don't grow on trees, or at least in my family. What they should have been saying is, but it does grow in the stock market, because it did. The money started to grow in the stock market. I got more comfortable with money systems, and I saved that 20K that year, even while I was on furlough. It wasn't scary. Yeah. Yes, it was scary, but was it doable? Absolutely. Hands down, 100%. I recommend, if you want to get started and you know that, like what you got right now is not going to really help you, you're going to have to make that investment. And I did. I made that investment. And one thing I did learn, I want to leave you with this lesson. There is always more than one way to skin a cat. So say, for instance, you're saying, Briana, I am not comfortable with the stock market. Okay, cool, but you still want your money to grow. Yes. Do you have a savings account? Yes. Where is it? Is it in a bank, a traditional bank, or is it in a high yield savings account? They're different. When I learned that, and I didn't even know this, y'all, and I don't think so many people know it, but I didn't know this, and I was shook. I didn't know that high yield savings accounts will pay you just for parking your money in their system. And so while I probably had my 10K sitting in my bank savings account and I was only earning like a penny on the money every month, I pulled that money over and moved it to a high yield savings account and started making $20+ every month. And that money makes sense. It makes sense and it adds up fast. Let me tell you, last year I made over $1,000 in high yield savings accounts money. And the reason why I was able to do that is because interest rates are so high. We are feeling the effects of inflation in our pockets. And so if we're spending out more money, I said, I need a plan, a bulletproof plan that will put this money that I'm spending, put it back into my pocket. And that is what the high yield savings account did for me. Now, I have 3. I don't believe in having all your money in one place, especially over certain amounts. I believe in diversifying my money, and the high yield savings accounts are my best friends. And here are my top 3. I want to share with you just in case you're interested. I want to share my top 3 high yield savings accounts with you, and I just ask you to consider. You want your money to grow. Yes. Can $20 every month is money. $10 every month adds up. And the good thing is that it's compounding interest. So the longer you let it sit there, it just keeps compounding. It grows more. And by the end of the year, you'll be like, wow, I didn't even have to work for these hundreds that's in here now because of compounding interest. My absolute favorite high yield savings account right now, because of the high interest rates, is Marcus with Goldman Sachs. Marcus with Goldman Sachs, through a referral link, gives you 5.5% APY on your money. That means that they give you 5.5% on the money that you just have sitting there. It's free money. Now, of course, it will be taxed at the end of the year because the government gonna want they cut, but 5.5 is great. It is the highest interest rate I've seen to date, and that account looks lovely to me. Now, I will drop that all the referral links actually in the show notes so that you can, take advantage of it. But I think the only referral link that you really need is the Goldman Sachs, because if you don't use the link, they'll only give you 4.5% as opposed to 5.5%. And I want you to have as much as you can, so that's what I'm telling you. My next two, they're neck and neck because they give you the same interest rates, and they are Capital One and American Express. And I want to double check what they're giving. Right now, their current APY is 4.35%. 4.35% APY for Capital One's 360 savings account. And of course, these are not CDs, so you don't have to keep your money in the high yield savings account for a specific amount of time. If you need the money, draw it down. It's your money. You get to get it when you need it. And then the same is true for Amex. One of the reasons why I got Amex, and Amex was my first high yield savings account, is because I am a Amex card holder. I'm not against credit cards if you know how to use the money and spend the money wisely. And so Amex is also offering you 4.35% APY on the money you just have sitting in there. And I haven't funded the Capital One or the American Express account in a while because I've been focusing on getting as much interest in my Marcus account as possible because they're giving me the most money back. But I'm telling you this to let you know that you can grow your money. There are ways for you to grow money, whether you're using your gifts, whether you're using the stock market, whether you are using high yield savings accounts. These are ways to grow money. You are capable of growing money. I'm telling you this, and I'm telling you my story because I've been capable to rinse and repeat these strategies to continue to build generational wealth as I see fit. And it just keeps getting bigger and it keeps getting better. Why? Because I mastered my strategies. And, this is not to say that all strategies are going to give you the same results, but they will give you the results you need nevertheless. And that is what I want you to continue focusing on. You're capable of building wealth. You're capable of stewarding the wealth you are building. You have to retrain your mind. If you don't get your mind out, there's nothing any of us can do for you to help you out. So it's imperative that you do this. I hope this has encouraged you and given you something to think about. As I mentioned, I'm going to link all of the high yield accounts in the show notes if you want to use them. If you don't and you want to know more detail about how I managed to get my money together, more than what I've shared here, go ahead and grab my Wealth Mastery Bundle. You can either grab it at BrianaWhiteside.com or you can just follow the link that's also in the show notes. Listen, sharing is caring. I'm telling you that it's possible for you because I want you to get ahead. We need all hands on deck here. We need all believers to be financial stewards of their money and good stewards at that. We need to advance the kingdom. And we can't advance the kingdom if we are unable to underwrite the kingdom. I hope you know that God has the abundant life for you and it is available to you, but you must partner with heaven in order to see it come to pass. So I will talk to you soon in another installment of the Book of Briana. If this has encouraged you, be sure to like the video and share it with a friend. You're capable of elevating. You are more than a conqueror. You are a co-heir, and it is time for you to start acting like it. I'll see you soon. Bye.